What if beauty wasn't just in the eye of the beholder, but a cruel deception, a carefully constructed illusion designed to mask an underlying truth? What if, in the pursuit of innovation, or perhaps sheer eccentricity, certain creations emerged from the shadows of the automotive world that defied all conventional notions of aesthetic appeal, challenging not just our preferences, but our very understanding of design itself? We're not talking about merely unattractive cars. We're delving into a realm where vehicles become less about transportation and more about a visceral, almost unsettling experience. Imagine a world where designers, perhaps driven by a misguided muse or an overzealous pursuit of novelty, unleashed upon the unsuspecting public machines that seem to have been sculpted by a fever dream. These aren't just cars that missed the mark. They are automotive aberrations, mechanical misinterpretations that leave onlookers scratching their heads, wondering if they've stumbled upon an experimental art installation rather than a mode of transport. The initial shock is often followed by disbelief, a quiet internal struggle to reconcile what the eyes are seeing with what the mind understands as a functional, desirable object. These aren't just ugly in the casual sense. They are fundamentally wrong, a dissonant chord in the symphony of automotive evolution. There's a subtle betrayal woven into the very fabric of these designs, a betrayal of the elegant lines, the purposeful curves, the harmonious proportions that we've come to expect from the machines that carry us through life. It's a betrayal of common sense, a stark reminder that even within the confines of engineering and aesthetics, hubris or a wildly divergent vision can lead to outcomes that are nothing short of bewildering. One can almost picture the designers, perhaps cloistered within their studios, convinced of their own genius, oblivious to the impending aesthetic catastrophe they were about to unleash. Was it desperation? A frantic attempt to stand out in a crowded market? Or was it a profound, perhaps even artistic misunderstanding of what the human eye perceives as pleasing? Take, for instance, the first true contender in this gallery of grotesques, the SsangYong Rhodius. Its very silhouette defies categorization, a bizarre amalgamation of a minivan, an SUV, and perhaps a commercial delivery vehicle, all fused together with an apparent disregard for visual harmony. The rear passenger window, a strange, disjointed trapezoid, seems to have been affixed as an afterthought, sliding awkwardly into a body that swells and tapers in all the wrong places. The front fascia, with its gaping maw and disproportionately small headlights, gives it the perpetual expression of a startled, slightly bewildered creature emerging from the depths. It's not just unappealing, it's an assault on the senses, a visual puzzle where no pieces fit. The public's initial reaction was, predictably, one of widespread bewilderment, often punctuated by outright ridicule. Car enthusiasts and casual observers alike found themselves united in a collective gasp, followed by a chorus of, "What were they thinking?" Magazine covers and online forums buzzed with discussions, not of performance or luxury, but of sheer, unadulterated visual offense. How could a major manufacturer greenlight such a design? How did this concept ever move from sketch to prototype, and then, inexplicably, to mass production? The question lingers, a silent testament to the strange, often inexplicable decisions that shape the world around us, leaving us to wonder, how did such creations ever see the light of day? Who dared to dream these nightmares into metal? To translate such jarring visions into tangibly similar design blunders re-emerge years later, proving that the lessons of the past are not always heeded. It's a cyclical pattern, almost as if every few decades, a new generation of designers feels compelled to test the boundaries of aesthetic tolerance, often with equally disastrous results. This repetitive failure shifts the emotional arc from pure revulsion to a more reflective, almost melancholic tone. It's a lament for missed opportunities, for the artistry and engineering talent squandered on projects that were doomed from their inception. One can almost feel the collective sigh of regret from countless engineers and marketing teams who knew deep down that something was terribly wrong, but were powerless to stop the descent into aesthetic madness. But our journey through the grotesque is not yet complete. We have witnessed the horrifying, the baffling, and the ironically celebrated. Now, we approach the precipice, the very edge of automotive design sanity. The stage is set for the ultimate revelation. Prepare yourselves, for what comes next is not merely ugly. It is an affront, a desecration of everything a car should represent. It is the undisputed champion of automotive ugliness, waiting patiently in the shadows, ready to claim its ignominious throne. The final, most shocking revelation is upon us, promising to leave an indelible mark on our perception of automotive design forever. We have journeyed through the grotesque, the bizarre, and the utterly baffling, our senses assaulted by a parade of automotive misfits. We have questioned the sanity of designers and the judgment of corporations, navigating a landscape littered with aesthetic failures. Now, behold the undisputed reigning monarch of automotive ugliness, a vehicle so profoundly ill-conceived, so aesthetically offensive, that it stands as a monument to design gone horribly, catastrophically wrong. Prepare yourselves, for we unveil the SsangYong Rodius, a car that doesn't merely defy convention, but actively mocks it. From its very first glimpse, the Rodius assaults the eyes with a chaotic symphony of conflicting lines and disproportionate forms. Its front end, a bulbous, fish-like maw, seems to gasp for air, flanked by headlights that appear to have been plucked from two different vehicles and haphazardly glued into place. The grille, a gaping void, suggests an insatiable hunger, not for the road, but for the viewer's good taste. But it is the rear, the very essence of its design horror, that truly cements its place atop this ignominious list. The roofline abruptly truncates, giving way to a bizarre, glassed-in extension that resembles an afterthought, a poorly executed add-on grafted onto an already struggling form. This rear section, often described as looking like a car wearing a hat or a shipping container attached to a sedan, creates an imbalance so profound it borders on the surreal. The windows shrink to mere slits, culminating in a D-pillar so thick and ungainly it obliterates any sense of grace or purpose. Every panel, every curve, every angle seems to be at war with every other, resulting in a visual cacophony that leaves one genuinely bewildered. One can only speculate on the design philosophy or lack thereof that birthed the Rodius. Was it a deliberate act of defiance against established automotive aesthetics? A bold attempt to redefine beauty through sheer ugliness? Was it a desperate gamble by a company struggling to differentiate itself in a crowded market, believing that any attention, even negative attention, was better than none? Or was it simply a profound failure of communication, a series of compromises and concessions that spiraled into an unmitigated disaster? The most plausible, and perhaps most disturbing hypothesis, is that it was a combination of all these factors, culminating in a vehicle that stands as a testament to pure incompetence, an automotive Frankenstein stitched together from mismatched parts and misguided intentions. It is a car that screams design by committee, but a committee composed entirely of individuals with profoundly differing and equally terrible visions. The SsangYong Rodius is not merely ugly, it is an affront to the very concept of automotive design. It's a physical manifestation of a bad idea, executed with a confidence that borders on delusion. Its existence challenges our understanding of beauty, purpose, and the boundaries of consumer tolerance. It serves as a stark reminder that the line between innovation and catastrophe is often razor-thin, and that sometimes, in the pursuit of uniqueness, designers can stray so far from conventional aesthetics that they create something truly unforgettable, though for all the wrong reasons. The Rodius is a definitive judgment on its place in automotive history. It's not just a car, it's a cautionary tale, a lesson etched in chrome and plastic about the perils of unchecked artistic license and the fundamental importance of common sense. As we conclude this journey through the automotive abyss, we are left with a profound sense of relief that such designs are, for the most part, relegated to the past. The Rodius, and its equally unsightly brethren, stand as stark reminders of how easily the pursuit of functionality or individuality can devolve into pure visual chaos. They challenge us to reflect on our own perceptions of beauty and utility, and to appreciate the delicate balance required to create an object that is both pleasing to the eye and practical in its purpose. We invite you to share your own encounters with automotive abominations, to collectively sigh in relief that these designs are, mostly, behind us, and to ponder the enduring mystery of how such vehicles ever managed to roll off the assembly line. Road-going machines. One might imagine the designers of these automotive anomalies as a particular breed, Perhaps individuals fueled by an almost pathological ambition, convinced that their radical departure from convention was not a flaw, but a stroke of genius. They were likely visionaries, yes, but visionaries whose sight was perhaps clouded by a potent cocktail of delusion and an unshakable belief in their own unique aesthetic. This wasn't merely a case of pushing boundaries, it was a wholesale demolition of them, often without a clear understanding of what would replace the rubble. The why behind these vehicular aberrations is a complex tapestry woven with threads of corporate pressure, failed market research, and sometimes a single-minded artistic vision that tragically overrode all common sense. Perhaps a design brief, misinterpreted or overly ambitious, led to a creative cul-de-sac from which there was no elegant escape. Or perhaps, in a desperate bid for innovation, a company greenlit a concept born from a desperate attempt to stand out, to be noticed at any cost, even if that cost was widespread public scorn. There's a subtle element of tragedy here, a misunderstanding of the very human desire for beauty and functionality, replaced instead by a confrontational, almost aggressive design language. It's the story of creators so engrossed in their own narrative that they lost touch with the narrative of their audience. The public's immediate reaction was a resounding, often visceral, rejection. Automotive critics, usually adept at finding nuances in even the most challenging designs, found themselves at a loss for words, or rather, overflowing with words of scathing sarcasm and outright ridicule. Slogans like "What were they thinking?" became common refrains, echoing across showrooms and online forums. These cars didn't just receive bad reviews, they became punchlines, memes before memes were even a recognized phenomenon. Their appearances triggered an almost primal aversion, a collective shudder that rippled through the automotive community. It wasn't just a matter of taste, it felt like a collective affront. This intense public backlash quickly cemented these vehicles' status as the unloved. They languished on dealership lots, commercial failures whose short production runs became a testament to their universal rejection. The financial losses incurred by their manufacturers were often significant, a stark reminder that even in the cutthroat world of car manufacturing, there are limits to how far one can deviate from widely accepted notions of appeal. The sheer audacity of some of these designs, their unapologetic ugliness, created a growing unease. It wasn't just a few isolated incidents. It was a recurring pattern, suggesting a deeper malaise within the industry, a disconnect between the drawing board and the driveway. Yet, as we delve deeper, a more unsettling truth emerges. Some of these designs were not simply accidents of poor judgment or the result of misguided market analysis. No, some were deliberate, albeit profoundly misguided artistic statements. They were the defiant declarations of designers who believed they were challenging norms, pushing boundaries, when in reality, they were merely constructing monuments to their own aesthetic blind spots. These were not just cars. They were the physical manifestations of a creative hubris, vehicles that dared to exist purely on their own terms, regardless of how those terms were perceived by the rest of humanity. Time, they say, heals all wounds. But for these cars, it only deepened the scar of ridicule, etching their grotesque forms into the collective memory as eternal symbols of bad taste. Their initial rejection was merely the prologue. Their true legacy unfolds across decades, a testament to how profoundly a design can fail to resonate, not just with its contemporary audience, but with generations to come. These vehicles didn't quietly fade into obscurity. Instead, they achieved a perverse sort of immortality, becoming the benchmarks against which all other automotive design failures are measured. Their ugliness wasn't fleeting, it was enduring, a perpetual thorn in the side of anyone with an appreciation for aesthetic harmony. Indeed, their infamy transcended the automotive world, seeping into the broader cultural consciousness. Some of these eyesores became unwitting stars of pop culture, appearing in films where their awkward silhouettes served as visual gags, or in television shows where they were driven by characters meant to be seen as socially inept or utterly oblivious. The internet, a crucible for shared disdain, amplified their notoriety, transforming them into viral memes long before the term was even coined. Images of these cars, often accompanied by incredulous captions, circulated endlessly, providing a communal space for laughter and derision. This pervasive presence in media and online forums solidified their status not just as ugly cars, but as cultural touchstones representing the absolute nadir of design. One might wonder about the unfortunate souls who actually acquired these automotive anomalies. What compelled them to make such a choice? Perhaps it was a genuine lack of aesthetic discernment, a blind spot to the obvious visual affront. For some, it might have been a pragmatic decision, driven purely by price when these commercial failures were inevitably discounted to clear dealership lots. Others, a rare breed, might have embraced the irony, owning a car so universally reviled that it became a statement in itself, a defiant rejection of conventional beauty standards. Yet, for the majority, the ownership experience likely came with a subtle, persistent undercurrent of embarrassment. Pulling up in one of these vehicles was rarely met with admiration. More often, it elicited confused stares, snickers, or even outright pity. The car became an extension of their perceived social standing, a silent, metal harbinger of judgment. This enduring legacy of laughter and derision forces us to revisit the why behind their creation, but this time through the lens of human psychology. What does it say about us, as a society, that we react so strongly to visual disharmony in a machine? The psychological impact of encountering, or worse, owning such a visually offensive vehicle goes beyond mere inconvenience. It taps into our innate desire for order, for beauty, for things that simply make sense. When a car's design fundamentally violates these expectations, it provokes a visceral discomfort, a sense of unease that lingers. The ugliness isn't just superficial. It hints at deeper issues within the automotive industry itself, a potential breakdown in communication between designers, engineers, and market strategists, or perhaps a fundamental misunderstanding of the very human needs a car is meant to fulfill, both practically and aesthetically. As we delve deeper into this gallery of automotive horrors, the stakes continue to escalate. We've seen cars that were merely unappealing, others that were overtly clumsy, and some that bordered on the bizarre. But what lies ahead are creations that transcend simple ugliness, venturing into a realm of design so profoundly misguided, so utterly devoid of redeeming qualities, that they challenge our very perception of what a car can be. Prepare yourselves, for the journey is far from over, and the truly unforgivable, the truly unfathomable, still await their moment in the spotlight, promising even more shocking revelations about the depths to which automotive design can sink. Prepare yourselves, for we are about to descend into the abyss of automotive design, where logic and aesthetics cease to exist. We have skirted the edges of the unappealing, navigated the waters of the bizarre, but now we plunge headfirst into the truly unforgivable, the creations that defy explanation and assault the senses. These are not merely mistakes. They are monuments to misguided vision, vehicles that seem to have been sculpted by a fever dream, then painstakingly rendered in metal and plastic. Our first contender in this gallery of the truly grotesque is a testament to the perils of overambition. A car whose designers seemingly threw every avant-garde idea onto the drawing board, then decided to implement them all simultaneously. Its front fascia, a chaotic mosaic of mismatched grills and disproportionate headlamps, stares out like a bewildered cyclops. The body, a bulbous, undulating mass, appears to have melted under its own weight, resisting any attempt at aerodynamic grace. Side panels are adorned with inexplicable vents and creases that serve no functional purpose, only adding to the visual noise. The rear, a jumble of oddly shaped taillights and a bumper that seems to sag with resignation, completes this symphony of visual discord. One struggles to comprehend the meeting where this design was approved, let alone celebrated. Was it a dare? A desperate attempt to stand out, regardless of the cost to visual harmony? The sheer audacity of its ugliness is almost admirable, in a perverse kind of way. Then there is the vehicle that looks less like a car and more like a prop from a low-budget science fiction film depicting a dystopian future. Its profile is an aggressive, angular mess, as if a child had attempted to draw a supercar with a ruler and a limited understanding of perspective. The wheels are disproportionately small, swallowed by cavernous square wheel wells, creating an unsettling visual imbalance. The windows, mere slits, suggest a complete disregard for driver visibility, prioritizing a fabricated sense of aggression over fundamental safety and practicality. This car, truly, looks like it was beamed down from another planet, but not one we would ever wish to visit. It embodies the alien connection, not as a futuristic marvel, but as a complete disconnect from human understanding of beauty, proportion, and purpose. It's as if the designers actively sought to offend, to create something so jarringly unconventional that it would etch itself into the collective memory, albeit for all the wrong reasons. The question echoes with increasing urgency. What were they thinking? This isn't just about a bad angle or an unfortunate color choice. These are fundamental flaws embedded in the very DNA of the design. The arrogance, or perhaps the sheer detachment from reality, required to greenlight such projects is baffling. One can almost picture a design team sequestered in a windowless room, convinced of their own genius, oblivious to the impending public outcry. Their creations stand as stark reminders of what happens when ego supplants empathy, when innovation is pursued at the expense of common sense and aesthetic appeal. The emotional impact of encountering these cars is not mere dislike. It's a feeling of genuine revulsion, a personal offense to one's sense of order and beauty. They challenge our perception of what a car should be, pushing the boundaries of acceptability into a realm of pure, unadulterated visual assault. Each car presented in this section feels progressively worse, building a sense of dread, as if we are plumbing the depths of a truly bottomless pit of bad design. Finally, we arrive at a vehicle whose specific design flaw is so utterly baffling, so devoid of any discernible logic, that it leaves one questioning reality itself. Its entire roofline seems to have been designed by a different team than its base, resulting in a jarring, asymmetrical hump that appears grafted on as an afterthought. This bizarre appendage not only ruins the car's silhouette, but also completely obscures the rear view, rendering it impractical and, frankly, dangerous. It's a design decision so profoundly misguided, it feels almost intentional in its awfulness, a deliberate act of sabotage against its own potential. One can only stare, dumbfounded, at such an egregious error, wondering how such a thing ever made it past concept, let alone into production. After witnessing such horrors, is there any hope for redemption? Or are these automotive abominations forever damned to the annals of ugliness? The scars left by these design missteps run deep, not just on the cars themselves, but on the brands that dared to produce them. For some manufacturers, the impact was profound, a stain on their reputation that lingered for decades. The mere mention of certain models could still elicit groans of discomfort or cynical laughter, a testament to how deeply entrenched these visual offenses became in the collective memory of the automotive world. Some companies, once respected for their innovation or reliability, saw their market share dwindle, their loyal customers turning away in disgust, unable to reconcile the brand's heritage with the grotesque creations that rolled off their assembly lines. The financial repercussions were often severe, leading to factory closures, job losses, and desperate rebranding efforts that frequently missed the mark. In the aftermath, many manufacturers attempted to fix or distance themselves from these colossal failures. They would launch aggressive marketing campaigns, touting new design philosophies and promising a return to elegance and functionality. However, these attempts often felt like hollow apologies, too little, too late to erase the memory of the automotive eyesores. The public, once burned, was slow to forgive, and even slower to forget. New models, however attractive, were viewed with suspicion, always under the shadow of their unfortunate predecessors. It was a vicious cycle of damage control and lingering skepticism, proving that a single egregious design error could undermine years of careful brand building. Yet, in a strange twist of fate, some of these vehicles, initially reviled, have developed an ironic cult following. Enthusiasts, drawn to their sheer audacity and undeniable uniqueness, seek them out, not for their beauty, but for their profound ugliness. These collectors appreciate the cars as monuments to bad taste, relics of a time when design went spectacularly awry. They are celebrated for their very flaws, becoming conversation starters, peculiar pieces of automotive history that defy conventional appreciation. This ironic adoration provides a moment of dark humor amidst the parade of visual disasters, a testament to humanity's capacity to find beauty, or at least fascination, in the most unlikely of places. These vehicles, once shunned, now gather at niche car shows, their owners proudly displaying their automotive anomalies, reveling in the bewildered expressions of onlookers. Reflecting on these design catastrophes, one is compelled to ponder what lessons the automotive industry should have learned. The paramount importance of market research, the dangers of unchecked ego in design studios, the critical balance between innovation and practicality. These are principles often paid lip service but frequently ignored. Disappointing